Welcome to Mommispace. My name is Brianna Bernhard, your hostess, and I am a new mom. I selfishly created this podcast to get some advice and inspiration from the moms in my community who are doing amazing things while raising their families. I've realized motherhood is hard, but knowing I'm not alone in this call makes all the difference, and I hope you feel refreshed as you listen. Welcome to the tribe. Welcome to Mommispace. This is Bree, and today I am here with Kezia and Neush. Kezia, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk with you. We have a couple mutual friends, more specifically, Lana. She actually recommended you. So I'm excited to chat with you. But before we kind of dive in, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and a little bit about your family and daily life?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from London, England. I've now been in Redding, California, same place as Lana Cruz, if you've listened to that episode. There's a wonderful, tiny little town right in the top of California. I've been here a decade, which sounds crazy to say because I vowed I would never come to America.
Really?
What happens when you make vows? But I came originally for school and then ended up meeting my husband and staying, and we've been living life here together for the last 6 years. Wow. And then I now have, as of 6 weeks ago, 2 little babes, a 2-year-old boy and a 6-week-old girl, Rowie, who is sitting beside me on the couch. So if you hear noises, that's her jumping in on the podcast. I stopped working when I was partway pregnant with my son, Clayton, and since then I stopped having a outside of the home job. I now work from home, which was my dream to be able to do with kids. So that's kind of my daily life. I mean, honestly, my daily life completely changed in about a week in December. My husband just finished up a 5-year, very intensive master's degree, and we moved house and finished a renovation while I was in hospital giving birth. So it was like we came home from hospital and it was a home show, like new house.
Wow. Oh my
thing.
gosh.
Husband's not studying anymore. Everything's changed. Oh, and you have 2 kids. Hi, bye. There we are.
Oh my word.
So our daily routines are completely different from what they were. So we're kind of adjusting and loving it. But yeah, 2 kids. NorCal.
Nice. That's great. Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I am excited to talk to you about is kind of what you've built with your blog, right? The Whole Food Diary. Me and my mom are super nerdy fans. So I'm partially like fangirling over here to talk with you. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I would love to hear kind of your journey into motherhood, what that looked like. Was that something that you guys were planning on? Was it a surprise? Like, had you always wanted to be a mom? And then we can kind of dive into some of your passions and how that ties in being a mom now.
Yeah, I did not always want to be a mom. I actually spent a lot of my late teens and early 20s wondering if I would ever get married. I was super happy single and watched all my peers kind of be desperate for that. And I really wasn't. And so I thought, okay, maybe I just won't. And there was no sadness in it. It was like, no, I'm ready to have a driven life and a great career. And I just am not there.
Yeah.
But I did get married to nothing that I thought I would get married to. I told my mom, actually, side story, my mom somehow saw him on Facebook one day when we weren't even dating. You know how it tells you, this person has liked your friends, whatever. And she said to me, she was sitting at the kitchen table, she said, Kez, who's Jared? And I was like, oh, this guy in my class, I think. He's friends with Phil. And she's like, you should marry him.
No way.
Don't be silly. I don't remember what she said. He has nice eyes or something.
Oh my God.
2 years later, we got married.
So, you're kidding.
Yeah. Crazy little side story.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so much as I didn't ever know if I would get married, I kind of knew I didn't say I didn't want kids, but it just wasn't really something I planned for. And I think I saw being a mother as something I would like, but almost in a parallel life. Like if I live life all over again, I'll have kids. But in this life, I want to be driven and da, 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 da. And then I think I got married and got a couple of years into marriage and realized, oh, at some point, that life where I have kids and the life that I'm living have to kind of join up and become the same life. If I'm ever going to live that. And I didn't really know how that looked. And honestly, most of motherhood really scared me. I felt like I was going to have to give up myself and just 100% sacrifice and give up who I was and be constrained to be a mom. So it wasn't so much that I was scared, I guess, more just I didn't know that I wanted to make those sacrifices. And I wasn't hugely desiring kids. I don't know. But when I hit this point and went, no, I think I do want this. So initially it was more of a strategic choice. Like, I guess if I want to have kids in the future, I'm going to have to have them now. And so we just kind of planned and we talked through and we got married. We said, okay, we don't want kids right now, but why don't we want them now? And if we're going to wait, we want to make sure we accomplish the things that we're waiting for. So we said, we probably don't want kids for 3 years. Okay, so what do we want to see happen in those 3 years that makes us not want to have them now? And we're very strategic about doing those things. So pretty much immediately my husband enrolled in school and we began knocking out as much of his master's as we could before we had kids. And I knew different things that I wanted to do. And so, and then when the time came, I think, it's very different when you know the person you're going to have kids with and you see the life that you're going to bring them into. And so I was very ready for it by the time that it happened, but it definitely was a journey.
That's so great. Awesome. Okay, so I love to talk about passions in life. And like I mentioned to you, I was doing the About Me episode with my husband just now, and I'm talking about it with him. Like, I definitely am a more driven person. Never really saw myself as like being a stay-at-home mom all the time. Like my husband is like, I'll be a stay-at-home dad. Like, I'm down to do that. So I like to talk about passions because part of it selfishly is to get advice from the different moms I talk to, to like figure out, okay, how do I do this well? How do I not sacrifice my family in the pursuit of what I feel called to? So I'd love to hear from you kind of what are some of your passions in life? What brings you life and joy? And does being a mom fuel those things?
It's a great question and probably one that I actually, dwell on and reevaluate often to stay, excited and inspired in my life. Family, honestly, is a huge passion. My husband jokes with me all the time that I'm a sheepdog.
Oh my gosh.
I like to just gather everyone up and I'll find myself making plans. And he's like, you just wrote your entire family into those plans. But I want them all there. And like he said the other day, we could take a trip to the East Coast sometime. And I said, what would be really fun if when my parents were here, we went to the East Coast and then my brother and sister could join it. And he's like, babe, you just sheepdog. Really at the core of who I am, I'm a family lover. And so in a way, being a mom who gets to stay home really does, bring me life in a way that I didn't ever think it would. But actually it sounds so cliche, it's such a privilege to raise these little lives. But when they're your little lives that you've birthed and seen, it's a daunting privilege. And whilst I didn't always know that I wanted to have kids, I did know that if I had them, I would want to stay home and raise them. But also I knew I would need something on the side because for some people, I think, life at home with kids fuels them entirely.
Completely.
And it's everything that they need. It for me, there's another piece of me that I do need to fuel. So I have a huge need to use my brain and be creative at the same time. I was in school before I came out to the States, and I just thrive on learning and constantly learning. So I will dive into books and learning kind of anything, but I really need to do that. So you talked about my blog and what I do there. That's a huge source of learning for me, and also creativity for me. So that's a huge passion. And then centered around this idea of finding real life health, which is something I'm hugely passionate about, and not just for the sake of buying superfoods and persuading people to eat more kale.
Yeah.
But I really think it's life-changing to find our own journey in health, for giving us more years on the planet to live out who we were created to be, but also in each day. I know, at least for me, the way that I fuel my body and treat myself radically changes the amount that I have to give on a daily basis.
So good.
And I want to live each of my days on the earth giving the maximum that I can. And I just know that's hugely changed by the way that I treat myself. That's great. But then looking at the health industry, it can often say you have to be perfect or everything's going to go wrong. You have to do this and have to do that. And so for me, it's been a journey of finding what it looks like in real life. Like, okay, we don't all have infinite budgets and whatever. So finding that real life journey and then getting to share that with others is a huge passion for me, and kind of empowering people to find their own journey in the way that it works for them, and then feel great with what they're able to do and let go of what they're not. And then around that, there's always new stuff to learn when you're working online. So that kind of fuels my need to learn and my drive to kind of for a challenge and be creative. So there's lots of other things around that.
That's awesome.
In my daily life, that's kind of how those things come out.
That's great. So how would you say then you stay inspired, like in the day-to-day and managing your time with these creative endeavors that you've been pursuing?
I think, it's interesting sometimes staying inspired when days are monotonous. Sometimes that's a negative word about motherhood, but let's be real. There's another laundry and another diaper. And so I think staying inspired for me is kind of twofold. Sometimes it comes internally from me just, reminding myself of the life that I, chose to live and want to live, even if it's not what I'm feeling in the moment, and kind of giving myself that mantra of the truth about my life. And, how blessed I am that I get to do this, that I wanted to do. And then sometimes it's not from inside, but it's like an external inspiration that I need. And we love to travel and get out of, we love our small town, but we also love to get out. We both have families in different places. So traveling and getting outside of what our normal is always gives me fresh perspective and inspiration. And then in the kind of the creating and the learning new things, I find huge inspiration there because, you're stepping outside of what you know is normal to you. And so that's hugely inspirational to me. And then the odd episode of Chef's Table on Netflix.
Ooh, come on.
We always watch that and then go, all right, we want to eat. What are we going to
make? Any of those cooking shows on Netflix, anything attached to that or Anthony Bourdain, I mean, so inspiring.
All of it,
That's great. Okay, so this kind of rolls into the next question, and that would be, how do you take care of your heart in the day-to-day with all that?
I try to remember to take care of it, and sometimes when I haven't. And my husband's like, all right, this weekend you're going to get a coffee on your own. No, but I think genuinely in that, the first thing is probably listening to it. And I've spent a lot of my life not listening to my heart and thinking, I've got to be strong and I've got to do this and I've got to be this and I've got to not listen to feelings because they're fickle and things like that. And actually taking time to listen to my heart and staying connected with it, I think is probably the number one thing. And then just being a student of myself, I think, is a big one, and knowing what I need to do well. And I'm always nervous to say that because I feel like you can quickly go down the path of like, I need this and I need that. And so
for sure.
I can't say yes to that, and I always want to keep that in balance with, no, I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm always going to have places in my life where I'm giving to people in a way that isn't comfortable to me.
That's so good.
And that's not a lack of taking care of my heart. I think that's actually becoming a whole person.
So good.
Have places of sacrifice in my life, but then in balance with that, to know what I need so that I can choose to step out of that.
That's great.
Or choose to stay within it, and I'm aware of keeping that balance. And then, surrounding myself with great people who speak truth to me and won't let me not live, to be the person that I want to be. So number one, that would be my husband. And then number two, I have a group of 6 girls that I meet with every other week. And so that's kind of like my first and second ring of making sure I really take care of my heart.
That's awesome.
And then making sure that my mind is fixed on truth. I can let my mind go to places and find that my self-talk is horrible. So managing that then makes sure I take care of my heart. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Very good. Awesome. Okay. And have you experienced mom guilt? And if so, what does that look like for you? How do you overcome it?
The mom guilt thing. Yeah. It's before I had kids, I was like, I'm never going to have that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel guilty about anything. Whatever. Then I had kids.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I'll be honest, I don't think I struggle with it, as much as I've heard some people struggle with it. It's not something that plagues me daily, maybe because I get to be home. I think that's a place where a lot of people feel mom guilt. And I feel hugely privileged that I get to stay at home with my kiddos. But I think I'm also very aware that me being in a good place makes me a better mom. So there are things that I've been definitely criticized for in motherhood, but actually I know that's what I need to be a good mom. So, I mean, things from like sleep training and, very controversial. Are you going to let your kids cry now? Or I did. Not very much. He was a great sleeper, but we'll see with number 2. But I don't feel guilty about sleep training my kids. Don't feel guilty about putting them in nap time and quiet time and things like that, because I know I need to take that time out to be a better mom or things like that. So I think,
that's great.
Yeah, that keeps me from a lot of mom guilt. Of course you have the moments. But
no, I actually really appreciate that, like your honesty in that sense, because I think sometimes there's this like camaraderie we feel when we are like, oh, you experience it too, like, oh, like, oh, we feel so bad about ourselves, or let's talk about like what we feel. And I don't necessarily ask this question to go there. And I appreciate the other side of it being like, well, actually I don't actually experience it a lot, and I think there are a lot of moms out there who don't feel it as strongly as others, so I'm happy to get that perspective. So thanks for going there. That's great.
Of course.
Okay, well, now we're on to the legacy question. So have you thought about that? What do you think about when you hear that word?
Legacy. I think it's intimidating. No, it's not. It should be inspiring, but when you can't come up with an answer quickly, maybe that's mom guilt jumps in. I should know what I want to leave my kids. Honestly, I think probably every day that I live with my kids, it becomes a more simple answer. And probably if you'd asked me when I was a teenager, I would have had some epic answer of I want to create this and that and leave and be famous so that everyone would know their parents' names and do it. And actually I don't. I really want to model to them somebody who loves God well, loves people well, loves the world well, and lives life wholly and fully and without restraint, and sticking to what I believe and being prepared to go after that and being a role model in that sense. And if they can have the legacy of having grown up in a place where that is normal and where to love everyone and sacrifice for people and, those kind of values are normal, that really is the biggest legacy that I want to leave them. And if I'm being real, I would love to leave them a financial legacy as well. I think to struggle for money. Some people think that to struggle for money is a helpful thing in life. I think if my belief, obviously on the front end of having kids, but is if I can raise them with the right values through other things in life, they won't have to learn those lessons through lack of money.
That's a good word,
and actually they can learn to steward, money and things in a good way through learning those lessons with other places. I don't want them to ever have to struggle there, because I think they can take strides ahead of where their parents have gone if we get to give them something in that regard. So, that's something honestly great. I would love to leave them with as well. So
love it. So cute. Such a cutie.
Saying more. What do you want more of? He's eating a banana. It was the bravery. So there you go. Real life, real life. I know. We do things with kids on our laps and cups of coffee.
Yes, all the coffee. Awesome. Okay, well, I like to end with some fun questions. The first would be, do you have like a favorite product for yourself or for your kiddos that you feel like you couldn't live without at this time?
Honestly, so you sent me some of these questions in advance to mull over, and I looked at that and I went, like, a good laundry detergent? That'd be my favorite product.
That counts.
But really, so honestly, I'm quite a simple person, and if you follow me online, we big on taking care of the earth. And I aspire to be a home that creates no waste. So I'm not really big on finding the next best, brilliant, newest thing. But I am in love with any new great eco-friendly product that I can find. Currently, I'm loving things to help us when we're out and about to not create waste with food. So stainless steel containers and a product that actually was just featured on Shark Tank called Stasher Bag, which is a silicone alternative to Ziploc bags. I didn't like Ziploc bags, but my husband is a Ziploc and paper towel fiend. So if he's going to live in a house without Ziploc bags, he was like, babe, that's fine, but I need an alternative. So we hunted around and they're great. You can freeze stuff in them, and he takes like trail mix and stuff to work in this little bag that will live forever and not hurt the oceans and all those noble things. So currently in love with them.
Nice. I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds awesome.
Great. For myself, coffee. How many times have I said that in this episode? I had a really bad night's sleep last night. But I am very simple on my skincare, but I've been loving a brand called Cocokind, which is based out of San Francisco. It's run by an incredible, strong, amazing woman, which I love a good woman-run company.
Ooh, heck yeah.
And she creates like the most simple skincare products and all in eco-friendly packaging and things like that. She gives a discount if you return them. But she has it's like a moisturizing stick with matcha in it. She suggests you put it under your eyes to get rid of dark bags and things like that. And so I'm loving that.
That's like the perfect mom
thing. My skin all the time. Yeah. And it's like giant lip balm. You can use it anywhere on your body, but I'm loving them right now.
Ooh, girl, we'll have to link that then so we can
some of my faves right now.
Have our peeps support. That's awesome.
Mama.
Very cool. And then do you guys have a favorite holiday family tradition that you'd want to share?
Being a sheepdog and pulling everyone together. I think I feel like we're less about major traditions in England than in the States. I don't know. I feel like everyone here has their big traditions, and it makes me feel very simple, but I love that. I think every Christmas back at home, my house, my parents' home is on this big hill, and my family walks, which my husband laughs at me for every day. Someone told me the other day their Christmas tradition was to go on a walk with their family. I was like, that's what a day looks like with my family. Not like that's not a Christmas thing. That's like every day we're together. But so we'll eat our big Christmas lunch meal and then go on a walk. And as we go on a walk, it gets dark and cold, and then you can walk down the hill and see the little lights from my parents' cottage and go back inside and eat Christmas cake. And so that's probably my favorite moment of Christmas Day, is we all put on our welly boots, rubber boots, and go for a big hike, and then come back and eat cake together by the fire. So it's pretty special that I love.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Very cool. All right, and then the last one would be a piece of advice you'd give to a new mom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ask me again in 10 years, and I'll have some way better suggestions. But probably the thing that's been biggest for me is surrounding myself with other people in the same season of life. And not tons of people, but, like I mentioned, I have this group of 6 girls, and we get together all the time. And I can't tell you the number of things that one of us has brought to the table and gone, guys, this is so crazy the way that I'm feeling. And everyone else around the table goes, no, me too. We're all there. And it just diffuses it instantly to know that you're not the only one going through something. Or if you are the only one going through something, to have that small group of people rally around you. And I don't know that I would have made it this far and still be healthy if I had those girls to laugh with, to literally cry with. I think someone around the table cries every time we meet. But it's been just invaluable to have those close people. So that would be my number one thing, is surround yourself with great people. That's
so good. Oh, Kezia, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm so thrilled that we got a chance to talk and go here with all this stuff. It's so good. Okay, cool. And then we will have all of the links for people to go and see what you look like and check out your blog and stuff too. So be sure to check those out on the show notes, everybody. But yeah, thank you so much, Kezia. This was so wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It was such a pleasure to have you listen in. If you'd like more information about this guest and other guests, you can check that out on Facebook and Instagram at Mommispace. And you can also email me at mommispace@gmail.com if you want more details or have any questions or would just like to get in touch. I'm always looking for new connections. Also, it would mean so much if you could leave us either a rating or review or both on iTunes. This just gets the word out about the show. It's a way that we can get more connected with more mamas out there. And it really helps me out as I am doing this on my own. And sometimes I just need a little lift up, y'all. It's good to hear from you that way. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week. Remember, you are loved, you are enough, and you are doing your very best. See you next week, Mama.